Hi, my name is David and welcome to my channel. This video is going to be about the four Gospels, and we're just going to talk about some really core basic questions that I think we all have probably had. The first one is going to be, why are there four? I mean, you've got 27 books in the New Testament. Why are four of them basically about the same thing? The answer is pretty simple. It's because there are different things that each gospel points out. They have different emphases. The reason that is because they're from four different people talking to four different groups of people that are in four different situations that have different needs, and there's just four different personalities that this is coming through. You know, Matthew is different than Mark, who's different than Luke, who's different than John. It's just we have four perspectives of the same thing, and that gives us a very good picture of what they're talking about, because only one account is from one person. But when you have 2 and 3 and 4, it gives us a much bigger understanding of what they're talking about. More details, more angles, etc. So that's why there are four. The next great question is going to be, why are the first three so similar? Talk about Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Why is it that when we look at these three, we see so many verses that are parallel with each other, almost down to the exact wording in the original language? It's incredible. But why? And really all this means is that Matthew and Luke are based on Mark. That's the general idea right now that scholars in the academic world believe, is that Mark was written first, real early, within decades of Jesus walking the earth, and Matthew and Luke took that text and used it to build their gospels, but they added their own emphases and understanding of the story that they saw into it. So that's why Mark is the shortest, more concise one, and then Matthew and Luke are a little bit longer and have a little bit more involved. And by the way, synoptic just means to see together. It's the Greek word based on a Greek word that means to see together, because those three gospels are seeing or witnessing together the event that is Jesus' life and ministry and death and resurrection. So then we want to think about John, and why is John different? I mean, what makes it different also? And the answer to that is just simply that John is not based on Mark. It's not based on any of the same literature. It's from a separate account, and it involves more stories about Jesus in Jerusalem. It has less parables. It actually goes into more detail about stories. It talks about a lot less of Jesus' ministry, but in a lot more detail. And so that's something that you'll really notice in John, and that's part of the reason why it's great for beginners and anybody who wants to get a good, confident read, is that you can really get into a story with John because he gets into it himself. Another great question to ask is, who are they written to, and how does that impact them? Matthew was written to a Jewish audience that was also religious, and so these would be people who actually understand the Old Testament, are aware of it, and know a lot about the religious situation that Jesus was in, that the culture at large is in. And so he refers a lot to religious ideas, especially in the Old Testament. He's trying to communicate to them that this is the Messiah. And so he talks a lot about prophecy and how Jesus fulfilled that prophecy. He goes through the genealogies because he wants you to see, like, this is that guy as part of the line. This is the Messiah. Mark is going to be to the Roman audience. He was writing to Romans who understood the Roman culture, and they cared about authority and power. And so Mark communicates a lot about Jesus' authority and power, and how he had the supreme authority, and he was the supreme creating authority of the universe. And then you have Luke, which was written to a primarily Greek audience, and so you see a lot to do with how Jesus was the logos, the word, the logic, the creating force of the universe. Something that Greeks cared a lot about was culture and beauty and more intellectually driven stuff. And so Luke really tailors into that when he's talking about Jesus, and he gives them things to think about and to be inspired by when they think about Jesus, that pulls them into the truth that he is God and that they need to listen to him and follow him. And whereas John is sort of written to everybody. another reason why John is a great gospel for anybody who's getting into the Bible or wants to have a good read in the Bible. And they were all written 100 AD or before. Mark about 50 to 70 AD. And that's really all we're going to go over. I mean, those are some basic core questions about the Gospels. I do encourage you to check out my free New Testament overview e-course, which is linked in the bottom of this video in the description. And it just goes over the entire New Testament, talks about all 27 books, and talks about what's going on in the New Testament as far as a big picture scenario is concerned. So I do encourage you to check that out. Give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.